All right, so today we're gonna dive into some pretty intense stuff, AI and warfare,
Hmm.
and specifically we're looking at this company Anduril, and they have got this like crazy vision for the future of combat. So we're working from this MIT Technology Review article called "We Saw a Demo of the New AI System Powering Anduril's Vision for War." And yeah, they're talking about like autonomous drones, AI making decisions on the battlefield, really intense stuff.
Yeah, and what's really interesting about this is Anduril is not like your typical defense contractor.
Yeah.
This company was started by Palmer Luckey, the Oculus guy. So they're bringing this very Silicon Valley kind of approach to the military world.
So they're not just like, building tanks. They're like building the brains behind the tanks too.
Yeah.
So tell me about this AI system. What have they cooked up?
So their system is called Lattice, and you can kind of think of it like a central nervous system for the battlefield. So it connects all these different pieces of military hardware, cameras, radars, drones, and it pulls in information from all of them. So it's
Right.
able to build this like real-time picture of what's happening way faster than a human ever could.
Hold on. So this Lattice thing is actually like making decisions in real time. That's kind of scary.
Yeah.
How do we even know it's going to make the right decisions?
Well, that's where this demo comes in. The article describes this test site they have out in the desert. So picture this, like a wide open space. You've got all these sensors and drones scattered everywhere. It's like a high-tech playground for the military.
Yeah, I'm picturing it. So what happens in this demo? Do they like let the AI loose and just see what it does?
Not exactly. So they have this truck drive into the test area, totally unaware that Lattice is watching its every move. And here's the thing. Lattice immediately flags the truck as a potential threat.
Yeah, well, hold on. Just because it's a truck, like how does Lattice even know what's a threat and what's not?
So that's the core of their technology. Lattice is using all these sensors to analyze the situation. So the truck's speed, its location, its trajectory, and it's comparing that against, its programming, its understanding of potential threats. And in this case, it decided the truck was suspicious enough to warrant attention.
Okay, so the AI flags this truck. Then what?
Mm.
Does it like launch a missile or something?
Yeah, no. It's not that simple. Remember, Anduril's focus is on information dominance. So in this demo, Lattice alerted the human operators about the truck and even suggested, some actions they could take, like sending a drone for a closer look.
And so it's like the AI is like a superpowered scout, giving humans more information to help them make better decisions.
Exactly, and that's a key point here. This demo really highlights how Anduril sees AI fitting into warfare. It's not about replacing humans, it's about giving them this massive advantage. By speeding up information processing and analysis.
Okay, so this is where it starts to get really interesting for me. So if Anduril thinks that information is that important to winning wars, what does that mean for the future of combat? Are we talking about like some AI-powered arms race?
Well, the way Anduril sees it, the military's current systems are just way too slow. Information gets bogged down in bureaucracy. Reports take forever to get to the people who need to make decisions. So they believe that Lattice solves that problem by delivering real-time data and analysis.
Imagine like a battlefield
Yeah.
where one side's still using fax machines or whatever, and the other side has this instant AI-powered network. I mean, that's a pretty uneven playing field.
Yeah, and Anduril is taking it even further. They have this concept called the mesh, and it's essentially a system where the AI would be orchestrating an entire battle.
Wait, the AI would be calling the shots? Like deciding where troops go and when to attack? Yeah, that's a huge leap.
It is a huge leap. And it's important to note that's not something they're doing right now. The article mentions there are policies in place that prevent the U.S. military from deploying fully autonomous AI systems.
Okay, so we're not quite at the Terminator scenario yet, but they're thinking about it. That's a pretty bold vision.
Yeah, it is. And I think this demo with the truck and Lattice, it's just a small glimpse into what they believe the future of warfare could look like. A future where information and the AI that can process it reigns supreme.
Okay, so that's a lot to unpack. We've got this AI system pulling in all this information from the battlefield, analyzing it in real time, giving humans this tactical edge. But what does that actually look like in practice? I mean, what are the real-world advantages of having AI in the loop like this?
Well, one of the biggest advantages that Anduril is highlighting is speed. Humans are inherently limited in how quickly we can process information and make decisions. But AI can operate at speeds we can't even fathom. Imagine enemy missiles incoming. An AI system could potentially identify, target, and intercept them before a human operator could even grasp what's happening.
That's insane. It's like having this like superpowered guardian angel
Yeah.
watching over our troops.
Mm.
But it's not just about reacting faster, right? The article also mentions something about situational awareness. What exactly does that mean?
In this context.
Well, think of a battlefield.
Yeah.
As this chaotic storm of information. You've got reports from troops on the ground, sensor readings, drone feeds. It's just an overwhelming amount of data for a human to make sense of, especially under pressure.
It's like trying to drink from a fire hose. Too much coming at you too fast.
Exactly. And that's where AI like Lattice comes in. It can sift through this massive flow of data, identify the crucial bits, and present like a clear, concise picture of the battlefield.
To human commanders.
So instead of being blinded by the information storm, commanders can see through the chaos and make, smarter, more strategic decisions.
Precisely. And with that improved understanding, you can deploy resources more effectively, avoid unnecessary risks, maybe even prevent conflicts from escalating in the first place.
Okay, so we've got speed and smarter decision-making. Are there any other big advantages that Anduril's touting?
Well, there's one more that's often brought up when talking about AI in warfare, and that's the potential to reduce human casualties.
Yeah, that's a heavy one, but obviously incredibly important.
Yeah.
So how would AI contribute to keeping soldiers safer on the battlefield?
Well, for one, like we've already discussed, AI can help avoid dangerous situations altogether by providing better information and faster reactions. Second, you can use AI-powered systems for some of the riskiest jobs out there. Reconnaissance in hostile territory, disarming explosives, taking humans out of harm's way.
So it's not about replacing soldiers. It's about using AI to keep them out of those situations as much as possible.
That's one way to look at it. And finally, AI could lead to more targeted and precise military operations. So instead of relying on these large-scale attacks, that can cause a lot of collateral damage. You could use AI to identify and neutralize specific threats with minimal impact on civilians.
Okay, so that all sounds, promising. But I can't help but think about the potential downsides, too. I mean, giving AI this much control over warfare, it's got to be risky, right?
Absolutely. As with any powerful technology, there are inherent risks that we need to carefully consider, and that's what we'll be diving into next.
Okay, so we've talked about how Anduril sees this AI revolutionizing warfare, but it feels like we're just scratching the surface here, right? Like there's no way other countries are just sitting back and letting the U.S. take the lead on this.
Oh, you're absolutely right. In fact, many experts believe we're already in like a global AI arms race. You've got countries like China, Russia, even some smaller nations are investing heavily in AI for military purposes.
Yeah, it's a high-stakes game for sure. I mean, whoever cracks the code on AI warfare first could have a huge advantage. But doesn't it also make things more dangerous?
It definitely adds a layer of complexity and risk. I think one of the big challenges here is the lack of transparency. It's hard to know what other countries are developing, what their intentions are with this technology, and how they plan to use it.
Yeah, it's like a high-stakes poker game where nobody wants to show their cards. And that can lead to miscalculations and potentially escalate things unintentionally.
Exactly. And that's why some experts are calling for more dialogue and cooperation between nations, even as they compete. We need to find ways to ensure that this technology is developed and used responsibly, even if it means sharing some information or setting some ground rules.
So even though Anduril is kind of pushing boundaries here, they're just one part of this much bigger picture. The future of AI warfare really depends on what all these different players do on the global stage. So what are other experts saying, specifically about Anduril's approach?
Well, it's a mixed bag, honestly. Some have concerns about their close ties to the U.S. government. They question whether that could lead to conflicts of interest or skew how the technology is used.
Yeah, that makes sense. When you have a company developing powerful military tech and they're, buddies with the people who decide when to use it, it does raise some eyebrows. What are some of the other concerns that people have?
Well, some worry that Anduril's tech could ultimately lead to an increase in civilian casualties or even pave the way for fully autonomous weapon systems.
Right. It's one thing to have AI supporting human decisions.
Yeah.
But it's quite another to give it the power to decide who lives and dies on its own.
Exactly. However, there are also experts who see a lot of potential in Anduril's approach. They believe that this emphasis on what they call human-machine teaming, where AI is augmenting human capabilities rather than replacing them, could actually lead to a more ethical and responsible use of this technology.
So it's not necessarily a black and white situation. There are valid points on both sides of the argument.
Exactly. It's a complex issue with no easy answers. But I think the bottom line is AI in warfare is here to stay, and it's going to have a profound impact on global security.
Okay, so this deep dive has been pretty mind-blowing. We've gone from a truck driving through the desert
Yeah.
to a full-on AI arms race, exploring both the potential benefits and the really scary risks of AI in warfare.
And the really scary risks of AI in warfare. Yeah, so it's not just about the technology itself, right? It's also about like who controls it and how they use it. So when we think about, the ethical implications of all this, it gets really complicated really fast.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
on the one hand, you could argue that AI could actually make warfare less brutal.
right.
Like if you have AI that can pinpoint targets with incredible accuracy, maybe you could avoid a lot of the collateral damage and civilian casualties that we see in traditional warfare.
That's definitely one of the arguments that proponents of AI in warfare make. They talk about the potential for more surgical strikes, where you're taking out specific threats and minimizing harm to innocent people.
But then there's the flip side. Like
Yeah.
what happens when AI starts making decisions about who to target without any human oversight? That's a whole other level of scary.
Yeah, and that's one of the biggest fears people have about AI in warfare.
Like, are we going to end up with these autonomous killer robots running around making life or death decisions?
And that's a very real concern. And it's not just about the technology itself, it's about the ethical framework that we put around it.
Right, like we need to be thinking about these questions now, before this technology gets too far ahead of us.
Absolutely. We need to have these conversations about what role we want AI to play in warfare. What are the red lines? What are the limits?
So it's not just about building the coolest new gadgets. It's about thinking through the consequences
Yeah,
and making sure we're using this technology in a way that ultimately makes the world a safer place.
exactly. Because the potential for both good and bad is huge.
Yeah, this whole deep dive has really made me think about the future of warfare and the role that AI is going to play in it. It's definitely something we all need to be paying attention to.
Yeah.
So thanks for breaking it all down for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
And for all you listeners out there, keep those questions coming and keep those minds open, because the future is,
Well,
it's already here.